Hi guys, Brook here. First and foremost, I apologize. I haven't put out any content in quite some time. I've just been enjoying the British summer. This is August 2019, and I've been spending a lot of time outdoors, trying to stay away from social media and a lot of the drama, especially the YouTube adpocalypse and all this other kind of stuff. I just wasn't in the mood for it. I spent more time spending time outdoors, as well as working on myself, working on my business and other things. And one of the things that I did for the summer is actually the topic of this video, which was my recent trip out to Iceland. And for those of you who've been following along with me, I went out there with somebody you're maybe familiar with already, which is my Russian that I went to Portugal with back in 2016. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll put the card link up here and you can go and watch that video. Haven't seen her in 3 years. It was really good to connect with her again. And she's a lot of fun to travel with, and I will explain why in a moment. But Iceland has been one of those places I've wanted to visit for quite some time. It's a very rich history. It's again, fascinating story and a lot of mixed cultures. It was populated by a bunch of Norwegian Vikings. The rumor is they stopped off and picked up some Anglo-Saxon women, and they went off and populated the island. Again, very small population. I believe it might be just about 300,000 people, 60% of which live in the capital city of Reykjavik. And as well, because Iceland is somewhat isolated, because it's an island, it is believed that the Icelandic language might actually be the authentic Viking language spoken almost 1,000 years ago. Unlike Norway and Sweden and Finland and the rest of these places, they've had Russian and Germanic influences come in and kind of change the languages subtly. Icelandic is probably the purest form of the Viking language that we still have today, which is really fascinating. I believe it has the oldest parliament in existence as well, which is also very interesting. It's a kind of cradle of democracy in that sense. Very progressive country. They had the first female prime minister, who I believe was also openly homosexual. Ironically, or somewhat contradictory, some might think, they also have a state religion, which is interesting. The Vikings came across, and of course they had the Norse religion, so they believed in Odin and Thor and all these other things. And in later years they decided to Christianize, and they eventually adopted, I believe, the Lutheran strain of Christianity as their expression. But they have freedom of religion, and some people stuck with the old gods. In fact, I think in Iceland right now, the Norse religion is probably the fastest growing in Iceland, and people are waiting for Ragnarok and these things. It's fascinating to hear. The place is quite expensive. I do believe they don't really grow a lot of things locally because of the volcanic soil and other things. You can't really grow too many things there. So I believe pretty much everything is imported. Unfortunately, when I was there, the pound dropped even further, and that made things even worse. I really didn't want to look at my credit cards when I got back, but it just had to be done. I just sucked it up and went off and, had to get through the trip. So again, fascinating place. The landscape looks like something out of an alien planet. There are glaciers and waterfalls and great magma features from the volcanic activity. Even an area which we did visit about where the tectonic plates of the continents are pulling apart. And you can actually go out and see where this is happening, which is, quite surreal when you think about it. Absolutely fantastic time. Really enjoyed my stay out there. So me and the Russian went out for 1 week, and we spent 7 days. We stayed in an Airbnb. I will actually put links to it below if anybody's interested. It wasn't in the heart of Reykjavik. It was just on the outskirts. Staying in the city was obviously more expensive, and we felt it was better to spend that money on the tours and food and drink and entertainment and these things. So we didn't mind being a little away from the action and that sort of thing. There's no Uber in Iceland, which was kind of disappointing. So, I got around that pretty much. I befriended a number of taxi drivers. I got their personal numbers, and I got them on WhatsApp. And I was able to contact them and everything like that. There are a couple taxi apps that kind of act like Uber, but I never got any of them to work. One is in Icelandic, couldn't use that at all. The other one was in English, but it never connected to a driver. I'd book a driver and then nobody would show up, and then they'll tell me, oh, nobody's available and stuff like that. So definitely something to keep in mind when making the trip out there. But beyond that, yeah, we managed to get around. We saw a lot of the sightseeing in the city of Reykjavik, as well as we did a number of tours. Now, the great thing about traveling with my Russian friend is, she really gets me to go out and see things that I generally would not be interested to see. I'm kind of like, I want to see the big things, and it's like, okay, right, that's it. Let's go back and have some drinks at the hotel, sort of thing, right? But not her. She really wants to tick off like the top 10 things on TripAdvisor for whatever city she's in. And as a result of that, I get to see things that I would never be interested in, but quite culturally appropriate, I guess, for the country. One such place, of course, was the world's only phallological museum, which is basically a penis museum. And yeah, I suppose she has her reasons, but I mean, only the Icelandics would do something like this. It was really amazing. We stepped in there and you're greeted by a 5'7" sperm whale penis as you come through the door. So this is gonna be good. And I mean, I would never be interested in something like that, but I must admit, when going through it, it was very well presented, very well done, very informative, and it was interesting. Just the story of the museum itself was quite fascinating, and no pun intended, but it's expanding. So they're actually adding more exhibits, and I think they want to renovate the location. And my Russian friend did what she does best, which was basically take lots of photographs, mostly of herself in front of various exhibits, which is something that, I just accepted at this point. This is who she is. For somebody who's not really on social media that much, she has a lot of photographs. And I mean, she says it's for her own, posterity sort of thing, because she's not getting any younger. None of us are. And she really wants to have lots of great memories of these trips. So absolutely fantastic. Beyond that, we did a number of tours. The first tour that we did was the Golden Circle. So we went basically to the north of Reykjavik. I'll put links to the various tours that we did. We saw a number of waterfalls. We went out to basically where the tectonic plates were pulling apart. And I understand that the tectonic plate activity goes all the way out into the ocean. And we didn't do any diving, but if you did do diving, you could actually see this massive crevasse in the ocean floor where the continents are pulling apart. I think it's like 2.5 centimeters every year. Again, very, very, amazing scenery. We saw all of the boreholes and the geysers, and it was surreal. You're walking around and you're seeing steam just coming off the ground, and it just looked like an alien planet many, many times. We passed a lot of the hot springs, and I understand they're naturally occurring all over the island. In fact, many of the hotels and other places use the boreholes, and they drill down and just pull the hot water straight from the ground for the hotels, houses, and other things like that. So really, really fascinating. And I believe Reykjavik, it's 80% or 90% of the power comes from geothermal technology. Very efficient. I think they're the best in the world at geothermal. And we saw a number of plants. We didn't go into them, but again, it was quite amazing to see. Just a beautiful landscape at the end of the day. The second major stop, of course, was the Blue Lagoon. So my Russian friend and myself, we put on our swimsuits and we took the bus out. And I believe this is one of the modern wonders of the world, it's called. It's basically a bunch of seawater that's been pumped into a geothermal plant, and it mixes with the minerals in the ground, and when they pump it out, it's filled with silica and all of these other minerals, and the water has this blue tinge to it, and it's supposed to be very, very good for your skin. And she and I went out there. We spent a number of hours out there, and I think like in the last hour or so, I went out and there was a bar that was basically in the water. You can get drinks, you can get refreshments, I think some small snacks, as well as a waterproof case for your phone. And for the first 3 hours or so, we were just hanging out. Went into the steam room. Just enjoying the scenery and all these different types of things. And in the last hour, of course, I became the photographer. And I went indoors, grabbed my phone, put it in the waterproof case, and I went about photographing the landscape myself. and of course my Russian friend, who she got a lot of photographs of herself in that scenery. They also gave us a silica mask. I take pretty good care of my skin. I do a couple of facials every year and stuff like that. So I didn't really notice much of a difference, but my Russian friend said it really helped her skin, in whatever way it was. And I think we actually bought a small container for her to take back, which was really nice. She really appreciated that. Beautiful landscape, definitely worth going. I think it would have been more incredible in the winter with the contrast between the hot water, and it is warm. It's very warm. And the snow going around. I think that would have been pretty cool to do that at that time. And I understand that there are less people in that like August, October period. That's the slow period, so you get more of the space to yourself. And the last tour that we did was out to the south coast, and we went as far down as Wick, or Wick as they would say. Again, amazing landscapes. We did the black sand beaches with these amazing rock formations from all the volcanic activity, a number of waterfalls, one of which that you could actually go behind the waterfall. Of course, wear all your covering and stuff like that, because you will get soaked if you do it. But you could go behind it and see the waterfall from behind. I don't know too many places in the world that you can do that, but that was definitely an experience. As well as we went out to see a glacier. First glacier I've ever seen. It was pretty cool to watch. We didn't actually go on it. We watched it from across the bay and stuff like that. But yeah, really, really amazing scenery. It was beautiful to behold. And we thoroughly enjoyed our time going out to all of these places. And lastly, just touring the city of Reykjavik. When we didn't have tours, we were in the city pretty early until pretty late in the evening. And of course, the sun doesn't go down. I think I stayed in a room that didn't have any curtains or anything like that. And I don't believe I ever saw darkness while I was there. It's 24-hour sun. And as I say, we would stay pretty long in the city. And there are these amazing artist streets in the city with a number of, sculptures and paintings and, specialty stores and all these different types of things. Very cultural. And again, because Iceland was once part of the Dano-Norwegian colonial empire, there's a lot of that Danish influence. So they believed in elves and trolls and all of these different types of things. And I believe when polled today, even a lot of the Icelandic people still believe in those different things. And in these artistic streets, you could be walking down the road and suddenly you're confronted by like an 8-foot troll kind of sculpture, and you could go and take pictures with it. It was really fascinating. And I mean, the most surprising thing to me was going out and getting actually Mexican food. There was a fantastic taco bar, a taco truck, sorry. And that was really cool. And between that, the food, I tried some of the local beers. Many people don't know this, but the prohibition on beer in Iceland is a very recent thing. I think it's in the late 90s or late 80s, like 1989 or something like that. They actually lifted a prohibition on beer. And now you're seeing that cultural influence with microbreweries and local brews and stuff like that, which was really, really great. And that was basically our trip out there. I highly recommend it. It is expensive. And when I was out there, the pound dropped. It really didn't help, but it was definitely worth doing. I think with a little more research, I probably could have cut the cost a little bit more. There are ways to do Iceland a lot cheaper, but nonetheless, fantastic experience. And I mean, my Russian enjoyed it so much. She's now trying to inveigle me to do another trip, possibly to China or out in Asia or something like that. I need my credit cards to cool off a little bit, but yeah, guys, as always, I hope you enjoyed this little update. I hope you enjoyed this my little take on Iceland. Beautiful country, definitely worth going. As always, guys, be sure to like, share, and subscribe if you'd like to see more. If you've been to Iceland and have some experiences, please leave some comments below. I'll always join in the conversation. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. Take care.